If film and TV productions continue to move out of California due to tax incentives in other states, what might the future look for Los Angeles? Is there a risk of it becoming the next Detroit? Well, there's no need to shit on Detroit in the question. Detroit's a fine city. Detroit.
Well, I mean, the central part of that question is that California, I'm sorry to say this, a beautiful state, has become Exhibit A in progressive misgovernance. And if you're going to tax industries straight out of the country, if you're going to continue to lose, 100,000, 200,000 people every year who have to leave here because it's unaffordable, because housing is unaffordable, you're going to create an example of what Americans don't want from the left. So Democrats, and my colleague Ezra Klein is doing this, are taking a good hard look at California and saying, we're not that. We need to be a party that's from some other model. Well,
yeah, prime example of what Americans don't want coming from the left. And like Bill Maher says, there's no need to throw Detroit into the mix and shit on Detroit because California sucks. But wait, there's more, as we have to include other states, for instance, maybe not Michigan and by way of Detroit, but instead Illinois. And thanks to their governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Are you rooting against America? Because, when good things happen, do you not want them to happen because a Republican is president? Because that's a very un-American way to look at things.
Nope. Seems about right, especially how the mainstream media continues with feeding off of its own dishonest reporting, working together to divide the country and make people angry. It's so sick. There's always a script, folks, always.
We begin tonight with the escalation in the president's crackdown on illegal immigration.
Today's dramatic escalation in the Trump administration's conflict with judges.
The Trump administration signaling a major escalation in its deportation efforts.
Today, an escalation in the Trump administration's battle with the judiciary.
Tensions between local and federal authorities over President Trump's immigration crackdown escalated today.
We begin this hour with a major escalation of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration.
We begin with what appears to be a major escalation in the Trump administration's deportation efforts.
And what is a major escalation in the battle here in D.C. over immigration and deportation.
This feels like an insane and reckless escalation from the Trump administration arresting a judge. I will tell you, you are not alone.
It's a dramatic escalation.
More aggressive moves, more escalation.
Trump's escalation of his migrant purge.
This kind of escalatory action.
This is a dramatic escalation.
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 We've seen an escalation.
For example, the New York Times puts out a headline claiming that Trump is ending funding for Narcan. The details are buried in the article, which few people actually read. They see no more Narcan in the headline and the tagline and the title and the thumbnail and this clickbait. And the Trump admin has actually said that they want to increase funding for Narcan as he did his first term. But they also want to replace the Substance Abuse Services admin with the Admin for a Healthy America, a reorganization. Rachel Maddow tells her millions of viewers that Trump is taking away Narcan. She has Jamie Raskin on later in the show to confirm, and people become outraged. Same cycle over and over again for virtually every issue. And it's true, it happens. Even for me, people read a title and a thumbnail or a headline and they think that they know the full story, but they don't bother to read further or even listen to what is being said. Fortunately, I'm not lying to you and trying to mislead you like the mainstream, like MSNBC, like Rachel Maddow here, but think about it from the perspective of they're actually trying to do it and get the attention of the left, deranged, angry, violent Democrats and libtards out there who want this. They want this to happen. They want America to be taken down. They want destruction. They are against America.
And I think that's where we're at these days. I think there's a giant chunk of our population that is so wrapped up in these social media squabbles and owning people online and talking shit and listening to videos and TikToks. They're so wrapped up in this us versus them shit that they can't see that we're supposed to all be in this together. And even if you don't like that guy, if Trump gets in and he does something that's awesome for the country, you should say that's awesome for the country.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really good that terrorists aren't sneaking in through our southern border. That's really good. It's really good that they find all the fucking criminals that are taking over apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado, and root them out. Yeah, that's really good. They should deport them. Yeah, they're fucking criminals. We shouldn't have to deal with that. Yeah, maybe we should fix everything that's going on in North Carolina. Yeah, that's good for everybody. It's like these things are common sense.
He is being treated no better or worse than anyone else. This is not selective prosecution. That this is not somebody who's singled out. That he is being treated just like anyone else. That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what the Justice Department is really signaling and messaging here, is that everyone will be treated, as Merrick Garland has said, as, equally in this country. This is really a great day for America. So there has been a violation here that we know for sure, and it is not the judge. Right, exactly. You don't do it. Even if you thought that there was a ground for doing this, the judgment call that you thought that this is the case to bring, it tells you everything. There is no adult in the room who would have said, "Are you kidding me? Why would you possibly do this?" And the answer is because we want to send a signal to the judiciary. And that's what you shouldn't be doing.
Is above the rule of law. The same rules apply to everyone.
We are all committed to the rule of law, and no one in this country is above the law.
The very basic fabric of our democracy, which is that no person is above.
And look at this. This is so disgusting. The media can't even pretend for 2 minutes to be impartial. They have to shill for a judge that let a criminal illegal alien walk out the door to evade ICE when she swore an oath to the Constitution.
Bear with me here. We just got this full statement from the lawyer representing Judge Hannah Dugan saying that she has committed herself to the rule of law and the principles of due process for her entire career as a lawyer and a judge. She has retained former United States Attorney Stephen Biskupik to represent her. Judge Dugan will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. Okay, quick reaction to that. But what I really want to get to is also the governor is speaking out, as well as a Democratic Congresswoman, Gwen Moore, because you can imagine the other side of politics responding to this. But first, your response to the attorney representing Dugan.
Well, everyone is entitled to their day in court. Judges, criminal defendants, victims, and those victims were entitled to their day in court, and they didn't get it because she let a criminal defendant walk out a door. She helped them. She obstructed justice. And that's what she's charged with.
Okay, this statement now coming from Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore, who represents Milwaukee. As you know, she said of Judge Dugan's arrest that the administration's willingness to weaponize federal law enforcement is shocking and that she is alarmed at the increasingly lawless actions of the Trump administration.
Well, we'll let this play out in court, and I hope she reaches out to the victims of domestic violence who were in that courtroom that day, and the state prosecutor who sat there all day long in Milwaukee or all morning.
Palisades rebuilding. Residents at this city council committee hearing held on the west side were here to discuss how to move forward.
The blessing here is that we have been given an opportunity to show the world how you do disaster relief and rebuilding effectively.
But the Department of Building and Safety told the committee so far it has approved just 4 permits.
But let's be honest, we could go on all day long about the hypocrisy between the media and Democrats and judges and the DOJ and everything that's going down with ICE immigration and these judges. And we will in a future video, because I have more that I want to share with you, but I don't want to get too sidetracked and off topic of where we began. So let's head back to California.
Councilmember Tracy Park, who represents the Palisades, says that's not acceptable.
You know, when I hear in a committee meeting like we had today that only 4 permits have been issued and we're on day 75 post-fire, that is concerning to me. And I don't think it is necessarily a lack of interest in rebuilding. I suspect it is indicative of systemic issues that we need to continue to focus on.
And I would agree. And I do want to share this with you because this is probably news that you won't catch on the mainstream, or at least not in volume, as it is a stark contrast between how the left operates, for instance, California, and a state like North Carolina, specifically Western North Carolina, and the good that is being done by the president for the people of this country, opposed to putting them on the back burner and pretending as if the criminals really are the victims. And stand by, because I'm going to share a little bit more about that in just a second.
Trump administration is approving more than $1 billion in federal funding to help rebuild in Western North Carolina. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is giving the grant to help rebuild homes in the region following Hurricane Helene. The governor's office says this kind of grant is typically focused on long-term rebuilding plans rather than immediate needs for shelter. Officials say the next steps for the state is to be given financial control of the funds from the HUD department, allowing the state to sign the grant and begin issuing the money.
Cities can do their part. You can apply for federal grants, but the state's unprecedented billions and billions of dollars support, I'm not interested in providing that support and not seeing the results. I'm a taxpayer, not just the governor. It's not complicated. We'll send that money to counties that are producing results.
Mayor Karen Bass hired a private consulting firm to oversee the recovery effort. The contract with Haggerty Consulting is $10 million, and some council members say that raises questions.
This butter right here took millions from the government. You think by spreading it on toast it's going to help? No, guess what? This butter right here, I just still can't believe it. I can't believe it. They took well over $100 million from, you said, USAID. Guess for what? To help other countries like Georgia and Egypt with food safety. So make sure when you're at the store, make sure you buy plenty of Land O'Lakes, because their affiliate, their nonprofit, loves to give our taxpayers money to other countries. Yeah, make sure you buy this.
We have city departments who know how to do this recovery, who have been involved in recovery efforts of the past, and yet they can't be afforded the opportunity to hire the personnel that they need. But we can give a $10 million contract to an outside agency to help write a report for us. For me, just is it's obscene.
Some worry the city's in such a delicate financial situation, it could make the recovery efforts and even dealing with routine city services that much more difficult.
Don't give me any problems. I don't want any problems. She needs to answer questions. Don't run interference. I don't want to hear it. Karen, are you going to allow an audit of Inside Safe? Are you going to allow an audit of Inside Safe by Kenneth Mejia? Why are you fighting that, Karen? We have spent $367 million to permanently house 905 people with Inside Safe, and you're cutting the sanitation budget. You cut the budget for sanitation and street services by $35 million, and then you're out here asking for volunteers to pick up the slack. Shame on you, Karen. You forgot to check in. You have cut the budget and you demand volunteers pick up your slack.
I guess what's your message to California taxpayers and other parts of the state who sort of see these challenges ahead for the state while, you yourself have your challenges?
Right.
The city is facing a budget deficit of $1 billion next year.
The loss of business and tax revenue is going to impact us. I mean, we are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars in economic losses overall here. And I don't think there is any real easy way to sugarcoat this. It's a mess.
It is a mess, and that may actually be an understatement. Karen Bass is in Sacramento begging the rest of the state to cover her $1 billion budget shortfall in Los Angeles. And this is not a repeat from last month when Karen Bass was in Sacramento begging the rest of the state to cover her $1 billion budget shortfall in Los Angeles. It's true. Only 4 permits have been issued 75 days after the Los Angeles, California wildfires burned 6,000 plus homes in Pacific Palisades. And California Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass lied again. And it sucks for the residents, but for these career politicians, life is good for Maxine Waters. At 86, Maxine has served Congress for 40 years with no plans to exit anytime soon. And why would she retire? Maxine is a Democrat rock star, according to this post here. She does as she pleases, private security and drivers, works in a $6.4 million mansion, or better yet, probably means lives, on a $174K congressional salary. And Maxine Waters, yeah, it's right, lives in a $4.6 million mansion, has a net worth over $5.3 million on a government salary of $174K a year, and paid her daughter $100,000 a year for 10 years. Do you think Pam Bondi should look into how she managed this while representing one of the poorest districts in California? Maxine Waters was interviewed by Chris Cuomo and wants people to direct their anger at the rich 1% while blaming them for the wildfires, despite the incompetence and mismanagement of Governor Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And yeah, Waters here on the headline for Breitbart says, "I'm not playing politics on fires, but we need rich to pay fair share to provide services." Yeah, they got caught, folks. They got busted, but they're not throwing their hands up and surrendering. They're only trying to make it appear as though we're doing something wrong.
And I just wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that you like to get on the menu here at the Wood Urban Kitchen?
No, you know, he's a friend. Jonathan is a friend. And I come here from time to time. And, you know, I eat barbecue. And, you know, just whatever is on the menu. I enjoy coming. He's done a great job in providing a good restaurant for Inglewood. And this is the kind of place where, you know, you can come, you can have good food, you can have a nice drink. It's a nice atmosphere. And I love what he.
And what's on the menu? Maxine Waters calling for targeted violence.
Let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
We are fortunate to have the state legislature and governor that we do, and we are concerned because we don't know what awaits us from Washington, D.C. But the state will have a better sense of the finances after April 15th when taxes are due. The May revise when the budget is updated based on the tax returns will give us a better idea, but that's why we're here now, because the subcommittees in the Assembly and in the Senate that decide the budget that the governor put forward are meeting right now. So we want to make sure that LA City is included in that. We've been working lockstep with the county. The county was here last week, so we wanted to make sure that our voices were heard as well, which is why we're here.
Well, your voice will only be heard if you're a criminal, especially in states like California. This is a prime example of what leftist, liberal, Democrat ideology, propaganda, policy, and governance would look like on a national scale. God forbid we ever get there, but if we do, prepare yourself, folks, because we will be the victims moving forward. Watch this.
Hello, California. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. For more than a decade, the leadership in Sacramento has literally tied the hands of law enforcement and made it almost impossible for us to protect you. Now, they are coming after you and your ability to protect yourself. Under a new bill, AB 1333, by California Assembly member from Santa Monica, Rick Chavez Spur, you will no longer be allowed to protect yourself when confronted by violent criminals. Under this bill, If a criminal attacks you or your family and you defend yourself, and that criminal dies as a result of his criminal behavior, you could be arrested and charged with murder. Now let me make this very, very clear. You have a constitutional and a God-given right to protect yourself. You actually have that right under California law. But our California Democrat leadership and Assemblymember Spur say, no, you don't. It is time we stand up to this insanity in Sacramento. I am asking all of you to contact your local elected officials in Sacramento and tell them that this bill needs to be removed from the Assembly floor. Contact Assemblymember Spur's office and demand this bill be removed. Californians deserve far better than what we are getting from our Democrat leadership and our Assembly members and senators in Sacramento. We demand better. We deserve better.
Americans deserve better, demand better. That's what we voted for. And whether it's California, whether it's Illinois, whether it's New Jersey, this woke mind virus that has infected the left and Democrats and the mainstream media continues to press on, as it almost seems as though Cory Booker is congratulating himself for literally sitting on some concrete steps, maybe limestone, I'm not sure, and more than likely possibly encouraging and inviting hemorrhoids into his anal situation as he just runs his mouth in what has got to be the most embarrassing thing I've seen in a while, according to Tommy Lauren here, even for Democrats. Well, I want to know what you guys think, so drop a comment. And if you like the video, like it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you on the next one.
First of all, my favorite Muslim poet was a man named Muhammad Ali.
Oh,
and that great poem, 2 words, me, we.
Woo!
But it actually reflects an ideal within Islam of the oneness of humanity.
Absolutely.
That there may be different faiths.
Sure.
But there's a oneness in humanity.
Yeah.
What you do to another, you do to me.
That's right.
That's a very big part of the faith, yes?
It is. Even in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's last farewell address, he mentioned that